Also, I'm Tom with Augur, and I know there's a lot of parties that'll be going on. I think Augur will be hosting one. We don't really know what the venue is at this point in time, but keep your ears out. We'd like to see all y'all there. You can meet the Augur crew and ask any questions you want. So just to go through, I'll go through some introductions, and then I want to definitely engage you guys, or like I say, I'm from Texas, y'all. So I might say y'all like 900 times. So if you have any questions at any particular time, just speak up. This is a discussion. I'm a discussion leader, and so I've come up with a few items for discussion, and just to kick this thing off. So Tom, I've been working with Augur for a year. And as you all know, we had a mainnet release last summer. It got released to somewhat lukewarm, reviews. And who here has had a application referred to with the poop emoji? Anyone? Anyone have the honor of poop emoji? Nice. So, Augur is open source. We have an open community. People come in and hang out with us, and we greatly appreciate it. And we get reviews all the time. And as a team, as dapp providers, we can't really shake our fist at the user and say, oh, only if the user was smarter. Only if they read the FAQ, So we can't really do that. We don't have that option. And it kind of reminds me of my brother, who has multiple degrees, a medical degree, and he goes, being a doctor would be a lot better if there just wasn't any patients. It's like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? So he went into research, and he writes grants and technical papers and stuff like that. And his niche, his community that he addresses is, medical research scientist types. And so he knows his audience. For us building applications, we have to address the newcomer and the blockchain enthusiasts. We can't just choose one or the other. And also being Ethereum dapp programmers, we can't just throw our hands up and say, well, it's blockchain. Deal with it. Cry your tears. We can't say that. So what the options that we do have, I'd like to talk about here, where if we can go next slide, is for applications, how distributed do you need to go? How decentralized do you need to go? So Augur, for us, for rules and regulations and laws, we want to make sure, and as an organization, not host anything for mainnet. So it puts that on the community. So you conform to your local rules and regulations, stuff like that. So we want to not have a central point of failure. So go back one. Back slide for me, please. And then, I guess it'd be the other way. So for how decentralized do you need to go is going to be the question for the audience. So who here doesn't necessarily have to be fully decentralized? Like, for instance, there's a website that's built using Augur data called Predictions Global. So they pull in block data, using our middleware, using the Augur node, and then they do their own analytics and stuff, and then they use all like Google hosting and stuff to make this data available. So I'd say it's not a fully decentralized solution. It does have central leanings. So the question is, how decentralized do you need to go? So any questions or any comments about apps not being fully decentralized? Or what part can you have centralized? Anybody? Yes?
I guess it depends on if you're just trying to obfuscate something or if you're actually trying to protect it.
A little bit louder, that last part.
Sorry. If you're trying to protect against something being disrupted.
Right, it's like points of failure, right? You want to minimize your points of failure. That's true. So who's here is afraid of government regulation in their dapps? I see. And there's using governmental organizations as a bully, which could for competition. That could also be something that we want to get away from. So being decentralized is a technique in order to basically stay alive as an application. Anybody else? What can you centralize in order to help the user experience? Any thoughts?
I mean, to a certain extent, your front end, and you can open source it as well, right? Like if you're scared of like getting shut down or whatever, if you have a multiple centralized front end objects or let people just give people an API and they can build whatever they want online. And before they shut down, you can stop another one.
Nice, that makes sense. Makes sense. So, like for Augur, there was an effort for Heroku one-button push deploy for our middleware. So making it easy for the community just to spawn the software and host it themselves, or make it available to friends and families and their grandmother, essentially. So having that, I like that. So quick, easy solutions for other people, other community members to host either the front end or middleware and stuff like that. I like that. Anything else? Anybody? Yes.
Was part of the reason that Augur decided to go with the desktop application based on what we're talking about here, not having a front end that's hosted by a centralized service?
Yes, yeah, definitely. So since we're not going to host anything on mainnet. Actually, with our test nets, we shut down. It's compiled so that you can't run it against mainnet for us for doing Rigby and Coven. And so we have a desktop app that will bundle together the middleware and the front end so that users can pull it down, pick whatever Ethereum node they want to go to, add the custom endpoints, and then they could pull in block data and then host it locally for themselves. And then just host the UI, just pop the UI. So we definitely had a big focus on keeping the UI static. So it's just a Redux app so that it could be hosted over IPFS or any kind of those decentralized hosting methods. So yes, answer is yes. And it's all bundled up in an Electron app. It's kind of convenient so that we get multiple OSs. Yeah, nice one. Any other discussion? What else can you centralize? Yes?
I think it's okay to centralize and store data as long as you give people easy ways to verify launch. So if you're dumping stored data into a centralized database, the thing you do is verify that.
It makes sense. Makes sense, yeah, historical data. And I remember coming across a service that would host, it's kind of a read-only version of Ethereum. And so it's like, yeah, our historical data. Yeah, it makes sense. I like that. Anybody else? Yes?
I have more of a question for your team, but
Yeah.
You mentioned right, you're decentralized where your point of failure. So working on something like Augur where there are not very legal areas, how do you think about decentralizing the development if, say, the US shut down your American entity? How would you deal with that?
I would be pissed because, where would I be, right? But yeah, I'd be living here. So the question is, decentralized development. So currently right now we're on GitHub. And so what happens if, Microsoft says, hey, we don't like you anymore, that kind of thing. So we'd have to migrate. So I've thought about that. So having mirrored servers on different services for your code and documentation, wikis, whatever you have it. So I definitely like that. So it is, in terms of the way I think about it, is points of failure, that kind of thing. Anybody else? Centralization. All right, let's move on. So data latency. It is a total pain in the neck, I would say. So if you're talking to anybody about decentralized application of dapp, and the main thing of dappiness is the block information coming in. It takes time. initially, when I was developing, as we were developing our development environment and our test environments and stuff, it was really fun. I was like, cool, I can work on this Augur thing really cool. Because I was like, I don't know how anybody has any complaints because I had 1 second blocks. As I was running a Geth node in a Docker, right? So with 1 second blocks, this is awesome, I would say. But data latency, when you get out into the wild, even on Coven and Rigby, and you see that you've got to wait 45 seconds, 15 seconds if you're lucky, 45 seconds for this block information to come in, it's a pain. And so that you can see here, for especially doing any financial transactions, a minute, I might wait a minute for something, right? Anything over a minute, I might start panicking. Who here is sent tokens and you're not sure if they're ever going to show up, right? You're like, so it's like the advice, the noob advice is to just send a little bit, make sure the pipe's clear, and then you can send the whole payload, right? Because you don't want to make that mistake. It's like, oh, there went Johnny's, college loan, or college info, anyway. So syncing is one thing. So then with Augur, we have a middleware that does syncing for it, that buffers the data to the UI. But actually sending a transaction and then waiting for it says, pending, and for it to ever show up to say confirmed, right? How anybody have any stories about how they found out what gas price is? You're like, I'm trying to sell this crypto kitty. I can't get rid of it. Because the gas price was too low and it wasn't being, picked up by the network. So it is a huge pain for dapps to really convey to the user about what's going on with this latency, the data latency. And so for Augur, we have notifications, and there's a little Etherscan link so the user can go get more information about their transaction. Anybody have any ideas of how to inform the user about their transaction, what state their transactions, where are they in the queue, how long, anybody have any suggestions on that? Yes?
I think probably it was a question of why, right? Like, as soon as you start finding that you get this transaction and the gas, why?
Right.
It becomes a whole lot of people, right?
Right. It's like you with a conversation like that, you're trying to take a noob to expert in 30 seconds, right? It's not, what do you mean I have to wait a minute? What do you mean it might take 2 days? Right? Exactly, right? So it's these kind of challenges to smooth over in the front end. And so we're talking grabbing all the old data so you can sync up to as close to real time as possible. And then, so for Augur, that was a huge pain for currently. So you pull down an Electron app, as we talked about, there's middleware there that pulls blocks, logs, aggregates the data into SQLite, and then there's Getters API on top of that, and then the UI communicates with it to pull that data. Originally, the UI was sitting directly on the blockchain. And so just the pain of pulling logs and all that kind of stuff just didn't work. And that was a little bit before my time. And so now at least the data is buffered for the user. They just have to sync all this old data. They have to bring it up. And that in itself is a conversation. It's like, why do I care what happened 2 years ago on the blockchain, that kind of thing, right? And it's like, yes, I know it doesn't go away, but it's bringing up the user to current state so that they have current data. And with Augur and financials, you want to have the most up-to-date information possible, right? I don't know, what's the name of that book? For high-frequency traders, right? If you've heard that story, that, dollars are in terms of nanoseconds in the traditional markets. And we're talking blocks in 45-second blocks, right? So I'd say we have a long way to go in that respect. And so to buffer that I'd say that way that the user sees the information, the way it comes in, to have it as current as possible, and how long their transaction takes. Keeping the user informed at all times, I think, is very important. At least, yes, it takes a long time, but keeping them informed. Next slide, please. Thanks. So then we're talking about getting data. Once you have all the data and all that stuff, how to interact with it, how to sign transactions, how to do all that. Who here has ever used MetaMask? Just say, yeah, say a majority of them. How about Edge Wallet? Used to be Airbits. Anybody? A few. All right, any hard wallets? Yeah, okay, cool. Which one's the easiest? What's that? None of them. All right, none of them. I'll go with none of them. None of them, I would say. All right, yeah. MetaMask is I would say it's pretty easy. That's the one that we mostly use in development, just, click and go and that kind of thing. So the problem comes in with how to explain to users how to sign a transaction. Why do I need to sign a transaction? What is a transaction? That kind of thing. And like, here recently, we had a user come on Discord and ask us, like, hey, I have so much rep, I don't see it in my wallet. It's like, okay. So it's not necessarily Augur, it's not a dapp responsibility, essentially, but yet it's our face, right? If you're really mad, who are you going to hit, right? It's like your face right in front of you. And it happens to be Augur. And it just happened to turn out to be he had multiple accounts in his Edge account, and he was logging in with the wrong one, essentially. But when you log in and you don't see your assets, how long do you take to freak? Yeah, seriously, right? Because you just don't know. So being able to inform the user of what's going on is very important. I'd say that the community is really stepping up to have tutorials and videos and all sorts of FAQs and blogs and all that kind of stuff. But I'd say it's definitely early. But to make it easy, right? And we utilize our design team, which thankfully we have a design team that are very conscious of the user, very user-centric. And we've come up with a new way of logging in. So we have 4 options. Take your pick. And then with the Ledger and Trezor, have you any ideas to make it easier to log in with a hard wallet? Because we all have been told, use your hard wallet, it's the most secure, blah, 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 right? Anybody have any ideas to make it easier? Because we've gone through a couple of iterations. Anybody know what a derivation path is? Right? Okay. No, seriously, anybody know? Yeah, a couple people, right? A couple of people. And then so there's been some hang-ups about which one's the right derivation path for Ethereum on a ledger, right? So, you had my crypto wallet used a different one, and what was supposed to be standard and all that kind of stuff. So what we did is we kind of went the standard way of paging. So you can page through different addresses when you plug in your Ledger or Trezor. But we're thinking that's not good enough. So community members suggested, why do I need the page? When we can just scan the derivation paths, scan the addresses, get the balances, and just show them right there. Here you go. So it's these simple things that we can do. Of course, it's gone through an evolution in order to make it easy for the users to find their assets. And that's one thing that we could do to help smooth the process. And it's keeping in mind, not everyone knows what a derivation path is. Not everyone's going to use MetaMask, that kind of thing, right? And then what happens when MetaMask changes their UI and the buttons are a little bit different, right? So it throws off these new users, and then all the tutorials and stuff like that are not applicable to new interfaces and stuff. That's what I'm saying. So that's something to keep in mind as we have here is this scan hardware wallets. And then have a username and password option. So people are used to using username and password, might as well, right? Why reinvent the wheel? And so that's what the Edge wallet gives us, is if you don't have the app and all that kind of stuff, it gives the user ability, just create a username and password. Then use this to log in, and then you can get into the details of your address and signing and all that kind of stuff. And who here has used like an unlocked node? So you're just sending transactions unlocked, so you don't have to sign them whenever running Ethereum locally or anything. I would say pretty easy to do, right? You don't know what you're spending, right? Hopefully it's on a test net, right? You're just like burning Ether to do stuff, or you're doing very specific scripts. So the one good thing about Edge is it's like an unlocked node. So the signing happens. It's really easy. You don't have to hit the button 900 times on your Trezor. You don't have to hit the ledger. Convenient for the user. But it can be looked at as a bunch of rope where they could hang themselves with it, that kind of thing. For instance, when we first released, we had a bug where basically the user would be prompted multiple times for a transaction. And so they would be sending a new transaction each time. We quickly remedied the situation. But what happened was users just kept signing. Yes, I want to create that market. Yes, 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 yes. And they create 2 or 4, something like that, right? So we definitely have a responsibility to save the user from themselves. And I would say making it easy to sign in, easy to sign transactions, keep the user informed of each step a transaction goes in to, that kind of thing. Hey, go a little extra mile, add a little link to Etherscan, then that can open up a whole nother conversation about what that is about. And again, I want to give a shout out to our community, which are very responsive, very helpful for people to drop in that have issues and stuff like that. So I'd say open source, have a community, that kind of thing. Yay. Can we go next slide, please? Thanks. Right. So like I mentioned before, so we have notifications here that will give various status of confirmed, if they're done, all that kind of stuff, pending, all that kind of stuff, and then it gives a link to Etherscan. So I'd say, what are some other good ways to keep the user informed? So we have this notification thing, is pretty standard, Webfair. Anybody have any ideas? Yeah. No.
I was gonna say, sometimes you can preemptively put stuff, right? Like, so if their transaction is not confirmed, but it's been picked up or whatever, and exchanges are usually pretty good about that, but to show, even though you're not 100% sure that this is what's gonna get committed, right? To show something, and we're going to change it and notify the user, rather than just show nothing until it's gonna get confirmed.
I totally agree. So if there's an intention to sign a transaction or whatever, that's one thing that we're going to be hopefully moving to is queued up unsigned transactions. Hey, we know you're interested in this. Here's one place you can go and you can actually pull the trigger on it. And so that will keep a place where the user can go to and say, I changed my mind on that one, or yes, definitely move this one. We've been using confirmation modals to do that, to inform the user, hey, this is the market, this is the price, this is your total cost, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, definitely. But yeah, queuing up unsigned so they can see it. It makes sense. Anybody else? Notifications?
SMS.
What's that? SMS. So different methods of status. SMS, email. Okay, cool. Yeah. That makes sense. Because that rings centralized servers to me, right? Yeah, but yeah.
Synchronized privacy.
Right. But yes, that makes sense.
For user adoption.
Yes, it's true. You got to meet the user halfway, right? You got to meet them where they're at, basically. Yeah, definitely. And then, what if they close the app? What are you going to do? How are they going to get notified? Or when they come back a day later and bring the app back up? Anybody have techniques? Keep the user informed. Anybody? Bueller? No? Well, we use local storage. And so that when they bring it up, we pull in the local storage, and then we go through transactions and look and see what the status is, populate notifications. But I'm always open for anybody who has any other ideas, that kind of thing. So I think there's going to be services that are coming out on top of Augur so that you can close orders and stuff like that at certain times, that kind of thing. Automated market makers and stuff like that. For our app, essentially, is to show what Augur protocol can do. This is kind of extra kind of thing. But it's very important for user adoption. There has to be smoothness in that transition to dapps. Data latency, not knowing what the hell's going on, that's pretty dappy. We want to get away from that. And over here we have the portfolio transactions. So you have a transaction, keep a log of what all the user did in their transactions, right? Pretty simple, especially in financial apps. Can you track every way? Can you track every auto ETH? That's kind of thing. Is it important to keep track of gas costs of transactions for the user? Anybody? I think in centralized apps you can track every cent. I think it's something that we need to do in the dapp world, is keep track of all costs associated with the user's interaction with the application. Anybody agree, disagree? Anybody disagree? Agree? Pretty easy to agree. And so that's something that's a focus that we're moving towards as we keep track of gas costs and stuff like that. It's basically cost of doing business. And we're probably not going to bake that into what our profit and loss stats and stuff like that for the user, but we definitely want to keep track of it for the transactions. Any questions on keeping track of everything? Yes?
Isn't that's like an area that where centralization might be useful? Is like tracking transactions, network status, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'd say so. That's a good point. So if the Ethereum blockchain is what it is, right, and the app isn't always up, all that kind of thing, does it make sense to have a centralized, I would say, kind of a forensic service so that the user could put in their address and it could aggregate data from different contract suites, like from Augur, and so that it would know what a market is. It would know what ERC20 market share token is. It would know what a dispute token is. I don't know. I like that. Business opportunity. Just saying. Cool. Any other? Yes.
We're talking a lot about notifications, and there was some information about single point of failure and stuff like this. But if you look at classical or financial institutions like banks, for example, they're all using optimistic update. Like user have no need to be notified about a cup of coffee. The barman will start to make my coffee before he gets informed that I have paid for it. A salesman will pass a box to me and show goods I ordered via internet. If they are not prepaid, it's okay. He will show me. He will fill all documents, and only then he asks.
I'm catching half of that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and all world is working like optimistic. I don't need those notifications, and then I can go to bank and ask for like all transactions in like 30 days, and it's an edge case. For the banks, somehow it's edge case. But why these notifications should be so important in the centralized systems? Can we get just...
Anybody? I need some help. Anybody help me? Help me with the question.
I think the question's around why in the traditional banking system people are essentially not waiting for settlement to transact, and in the blockchain world we're often waiting for settlement to transact.
I'm sorry, I'll simplify it. Can't we just go optimistic and build systems that work as reliable as everything else in our world? Like,
How can you do it? You cannot reverse transactions.
Right.
That's the whole point.
well, when you pay for your coffee, you can reverse transaction as well.
Right. So the question is a feature of reverse transaction, which is normal in centralized banking. Why not have that feature in blockchain? Is that what you're saying? Are you saying?
We're talking about notifications, but why do we have to notify user if in 99.9999% of cases everything will go fine? Why notify user about anything that will go fine?
I think the assumption is that the transaction will complete, notifying the error condition, not on the transaction complete condition. Assume.
Oh, you said right. Who here's had a transaction stick for 2 days? There's your answer. Right. Who here is overridden a transaction with a higher gas price? Right, there's your answer. Right. Yeah. right. Exactly. And so that is a case in keeping the user informed of what's going on. And so like we usually have a period of time, like this was 13 minutes ago. So this transaction was 13 minutes ago. This one was like 2 hours ago. This was like 2 days ago, that kind of thing. And so it's a pretty quick glance at, do I need to take, do I need to up my gas price? What's going on? So one of the features that we're going to be introducing in the next release is global gas price for our app, right? So one of the big problems that we had is, hey, everyone use hard wallets because it's most secure and stuff, and okay, I got my ledger, I sent a transaction. You have no idea what the gas price was, you don't know how long it's going to be stuck, you can't add more gas price to it, so you can do that. So we're going to remedy that situation by calling either gas station as an API to give, low, standard, high, current gas prices so they can know what GUI they want to override it with. So like for instance, in a recent dispute of the Bastille Day one, someone spent over 100 GUI to get their dispute in, to put in however many rep they did to dispute. So it's like, that's, probably not a newbie that did that, right? But having this kind of global gas price stat will make it a lot easier for people to do that, so that you can regulate your gas price depending on how urgent your transaction is. And in financial apps, you can be pretty urgent, or you can let it go. Whenever this gets done, when I claim my winnings or whatever, lower gas price, more profit. So let it go for a couple of days. I don't care, that kind of thing. So yes.
How do you segment your users at the moment? Like you've said a couple things where you're talking about advanced users versus people who've just come in.
Yeah. So
like, how do you actually think about that?
Yeah. So that's another thing that we're focusing on is instead of dumbing everything down or making it way too complicated, we decided to, this is my initiative. Hopefully the other guys agree with me. It's there's a simplification or an advance. So like when in the ledger, like you want to log in with ledger, we have advanced where you can set your derivation path and stuff like that. And I think we're going to go with a little bit more easier way with the whole scanning thing. So that's like an instance. Another one would be there's a initiative of having a betting UI opposed to only a trading UI. So those that are really used to a very simple, basically just taking market orders on betting. So then it's just like click, it's done, right? Rather than buying shares and trading shares and doing all that kind of stuff. So it's really kind of understanding that there's not only users like us out there, but it's to really understand how easy can we really make this. Yes.
Is there a strong correlation between the type of login the user uses, such as MetaMask, and their noob level? Right, you sort of assume that more advanced users would use a hardware wallet, but is that true? Or?
I would put it more in a paranoid scale.
Okay.
Right. So I'd say you're paranoid. Or it's kind of like a doctor, right? They know what germs and diseases are out there. So, they wash their hands with soap, you know what I mean, right? And then, and it's a convenience factor. So if you're paranoid, just not so paranoid, but, you really understand what's going on, you want to use a hardware wallet. But what if you want to use an address on the third page of your ledger wallet, right? Why not, right? Why not, right? It's just kind of like there's variability in the users that are out there that want to be safe. You don't want your money to slip into wrong hands. Yes.
I imagine you also can't really extrapolate on that because maybe people with cold storage wallets that use hot wallets for keeping ties, right?
But maybe say if you're open in your market, right, or whatever, putting a large amount in there, you probably, I don't know, you think you probably wouldn't transfer it to MetaMask before, you'd probably go straight from your ledger. But then if you were betting $5, then maybe you're
Right. Yeah, case by case basis, but definitely so. Depending on how much money you want to move and transactions. Yeah. Yes.
I just wanted to piggyback on that one. I
you all have a downloadable desktop app, right? So
Yes.
if you download the software, why not just bundle a wallet in with Augur? What was the design decision?
Yeah, so the problem we had was how are you going to get the wallet to work in the Electron app? Like essentially for MetaMask doesn't work. Or I don't know, who was it? Somebody said that, can't remember the name of the project, actually got it to work, but then they haven't worked on it forever, so it's basically gone away. And so that was one of our concerns about having the app fully wrapped in Electron. So essentially you put all the middleware and all that kind of stuff in the web server in Electron, and then it just hosts just a normal
So I think we had a bundle of MetaMask in Electron. That sucks.
Right.
Why don't you just create your own wallet inside of one?
Yeah.
It's pretty easy to do.
Yeah. I think we wanted to support multiple wallets that already exist and didn't want our own wallet in there. That was a decision done a little before me. And I think if I remember the dialogue, it was basically, we don't want people to trust us. Essentially, right? It's like, I don't know. I mean, what do you think?
I would love to trust you guys.
Right. Well, it's true. Well, you know, it's decentralized, trustless, blah, 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 right? And then, you know, we're building this protocol on this platform. Why build yet another wallet? Because there's so many wallets already out there. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard about such wallet that you can embed in your application. I think the name is Fortis. Have you heard of it? Fortis. It's an application that you embed in your application, a wallet that you embed, and the transaction sign behaves as pop-ups within your same application, so you don't have to have an extension.
Oh, okay.
And also, I really like the idea of using gas price oracles.
Yeah.
Probably not to trust only one source, because that source can go down.
Right, that's true, it's true.
You can get it from the blockchain, and for newbies, you just can remove the word gas completely.
Yeah, it's true. That's true. Right. That makes sense. That's good. Yeah, in our little pop-up, you can just click on load.
It's an application pop-up. However, it trusts in the local storage.
Right. Yeah, it's true. You got to trust something. Let's see. I think I got one last slide, because I think natives are getting restless. So yeah, I've talked a couple of times about middleware, and so currently talked about middleware right now for us is outside of the UI. It runs as Augur node. It's bundled into the Electron app, and it aggregates data. So it's what we went from was the UI. The user was talking directly to the blockchain, and then now we went to a middleware type thing to kind of buffer the data and make the data responsive for when the user wants it, for the old data and stuff like that. So the data aggregator, and there's talk that we're going to move that data aggregator piece into the UI, so it'll be bundled. So you won't have to run it yourself, or you won't have to, you know, trust a third party basically to run the aggregated data service. And so we'll hopefully speed up dramatically the syncing effort when the app is initially loaded. So to smooth the dappiness of it is basically what we're shooting for, I think. Am I out of time? All right, 2 minutes. All right, thanks, guys. Any questions? Yeah, so that's the thing. Hey, if y'all have any questions or anything, you can drop in our Discord. You can make any suggestions. If you see guys with Augur shirts, talk to them. We're around all week. And so, yeah, if you see me, talk to me, ask me questions, whatever. I love this stuff. And thank y'all very much.